President-elect William Ruto has a daunting task to resolve the country's economic challenges when he assumes office next week. Ruto assumes office in the middle of an economic crisis, with the country struggling with inflation at a 5-year high of 8.5% in August on the back of costly food and fuel. And as Faizal Ahmed tells us, a lot will depend on how the new president will implement his manifesto to address the economic challenges.
Tunatengeneza serikali ambayo itabadilisha uchumi na iweke pesa kwa mfuko ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
These are the bold promises made by President-elect William Ruto during his campaigns. And now that he's set to assume office in a week's time, let's paint a picture for you on what lies ahead for the incoming head of state and what he needs to do to tackle the economic hurdles that many Kenyans face on a daily basis. With fuel costs at an all-time high, partly fueled by the ongoing war in Ukraine and 8 levies placed on the product, it has become more of a luxury than a necessity for many Kenyans. And with the IMF piling pressure on the National Treasury to drop the fuel subsidy, this will be one of the more immediate challenges facing Kenyans that the incoming government needs to deal with.
The last financial year, it cost us around 100 billion shillings, which was not budgeted for, and that was to go towards stabilizing the subsidizing the fuel. So I think they'll be faced with two choices: either to go with what they had stated on their manifesto, the legal framework around the stabilization fund, or just do away with it, which I think the latter will reign supreme. They'll just do away with all this fuel subsidy.
Further, the coronavirus pandemic has left an aftershock in the economy, including staggered wages, growing youth unemployment, and an increase in price of basic commodities, pushing up the cost of living, subsequently increasing inflation to a 5-year high of 8.5% recorded in August 2022. On the mounting public debt, Ruto promised that he would put a hold on the country's borrowing spree and borrow on a need basis, and concessionally for that matter, to free up funds in the local market for SMEs as he plans to expand the tax base as well. According to the central bank, Kenya's debt is inching closer to the 9 trillion shilling mark and is expected to break the 10 trillion shilling figure if this financial year budget deficit is to be considered. For example, by the end of May this year, the country owed China 796.5 billion shillings, amounting to 18.5% of Kenya's external debt load of 4.29 trillion shillings and 9.3% of the total public debt, which stands at 8.56 billion shillings as at May 31st. Further, the government is spending more than half the tax collected in the country, 1.39 trillion shilling, in the year starting July 2022 on repaying debt and the interest that has been accrued. The weakening shilling is also another headache that the incoming government will have to deal with, as it has crossed the 120 shilling mark against the dollar, depreciating for 14 straight months. This also spells a problem in servicing debt that are dollar denominated.
The incoming government will need to come in and alleviate some of the pressures that a number of the corporates who rely on dollars, because Kenya is still a net importer country, who rely on dollars as an input or as part, so as to be able to finance their imports of raw materials, or they need the dollars, at least within, because we are a global supply, within the framework of global supply chain, so they will have to address this issue about the dollar supply challenges, at least as a way indirectly to address the cost of living pressure.
With over 500 billion shillings in pending bills, the incoming government will be forced to dig deeper into their pockets to repay many SMEs that are hurting from the huge debts owed to them by both the national and county governments. Once sworn into office, President-elect William Ruto in his manifesto promised what he termed as quick wins, which will have an impact on the life of Kenyans, including lowering the cost of basic commodities like food and fuel, and also long-term policies that will shield Kenyans from the economic burden that they are faced with at the moment. With the fuel subsidy likely to lapse any time from now and the maize flour subsidy already lapsed in August, it remains to be seen what measures he will undertake to ensure affordability of these two key commodities. With President-elect William Ruto expected to assume office next week, he made promises to Kenyans that he will transform the economy from the bottom of the pyramid going up. However, in order to realize this, he will need to address the aforementioned issues, particularly the cost of living, to realize his promise. Faizal Ahmed, Citizen TV, Nairobi.